Hello, everyone. Welcome to Around Town TV. My name is Carla Berline, Minnesota's lifestyle and business experts. We've been bringing you the best kept secrets, businesses, organizations, and people since 2003. We are the Twin Cities' longest airing television community showcase, but I haven't been in TV as long as my special guest has tonight. Please welcome, she is the soon to be in about 10 days the first woman ever inducted into the Gold Circle Honor Society for the National Academy of Television Arts and Sciences Upper Midwest Emmys Regional Chapter right here. Please welcome Jodi Ritacca Carlini.
Carla, what an honor, and I'm so humbled to be on your show today, so thank you for having me.
Well, it's all my honor.
Thrilled to be the first woman to receive this in our 25-year history of the Upper Midwest Emmy chapter.
Yeah. It is just incredible, but you are an inspiration to all of us women in the business. You've been a trailblazer since you got started, and I just admire you so much. So thank you for taking time to be on the show.
Absolutely. I'm honored to be on your show. Thank you.
Thank you. And before we get into learning more about Jodi's story, I know that both her and I offline were talking about and are sending all of our thoughts and prayers to all those in Florida. The weather is already hitting, and we know people are experiencing some pretty catastrophic events. And I know Jodi's no stranger to being a storm chaser and reporting some of that. We were talking about some of those stories too, but my heart is breaking, goes out to everyone in the state of Florida that's being impacted, which is pretty much the whole state.
Absolutely. Best wishes to everybody, that everyone comes out safe. And yeah.
Jodi, like I said, you've been a trailblazer. You started in your 20s. For those who may have seen us in pictures together and things, but maybe knew you were the president for 6 years of the Upper Midwest Emmy chapter, but if you wouldn't mind sharing a little bit about your history, your background, and how you got started in the television industry.
Well, I really just kind of fell into it. I was always told I was a good writer and things. And so when I started college, I started taking some journalism classes and writing classes and stuff like that. And the next thing I knew, there was opportunities in the college to get my stories published and stuff with my byline. And then from there, I also interned at 2 Denver TV stations, and then started at one of the smallest markets in the country at KNOP TV in North Platte, Nebraska, and worked there for more than a decade. And soon after starting there, I became one of the first female news directors in the country. So never dreamed that I would be there like that, but, and then came up to the Twin Cities for opportunities to work at then KSTP Channel 5 and did the medical producing in that for, again, more than a decade. And I've continued to do my own show called Inside Healthcare about health and medical news. And now in our 19th year for doing that show, and it runs on more than a dozen Twin City cable stations every month. So very honored to be able to do all of this in my career.
Oh my gosh. Well, in such a career, extraordinary career, and you've made so many incredible contributions to the industry. And thank you for giving that overview of your background. And we're going to delve into each one, if you don't mind, to share with our viewers. For those just tuning in, my name is Carla Berline, and I have Jodi Ritacca Carlini, the first woman in about 10 days to be inducted into the Gold Circle Honor Society here in the Upper Midwest Emmys Regional Chapter, on behalf of the National Academy of Television Arts and Sciences. And Jodi, you talked about, I was going to ask you about being one of the first female news directors back when you worked at KNOP TV from 1979 to 1992. But that is also where you met your husband, Greg, who you said directed more than 3,000 daily newscasts and special public affairs shows. Would you mind sharing more about that with our viewers?
It was wonderful to work with him. One of the best in the business. I could rely on him. He was in the control room. I was on the news set in the studio, from breaking news to even covering mass murder case and all of the everything in between. Through those more than a decade doing those stories and stuff. One of the things, like, Greg would always be steady in the control room, even in the middle of like tornadoes and blizzards. One time in particular, one night, I'm on the set. We have a tornado warning. The weatherman, the meteorologist, is with me, and we were staying on live the entire time, and trying to warn residents and things like that. And then when the tornado touched down and wiped out a complete subdivision less than a half mile from the TV station, that tornado was heading right toward the TV station. But we stayed on the air the whole time, assuring all of our viewers that we would be with them and keep them safe and stuff. And then there were no deaths during that time. So they credit us with helping save their lives. That was just one of many, many experiences covering live broadcasts.
That is fantastic. And I have to say, as we were jumping on, as everyone knows, with live television here through the internet, there's always something. And Greg, of course, is right by your side helping fix things. And so things have not changed in 41 years. And I just adore Greg. He's been so supportive of all of us that admire and follow you and are big supporters of you. And I'm grateful for that as well. And
this year in particular too, we've been married 41 years, and this year he has survived cancer eye surgery and radiation, thanks to the doctors at the Mayo Clinic, and he's doing well. His eye works and everything. So very, very grateful to my husband.
Well, and thank you for sharing that. For those of you who are tuning in, I know that it seems like cancer touches everyone, but when it happens in your family and it's one of your loved ones and someone who's been your rock or your partner in crime, professionally and personally, it's tough. I know we've talked about that offline. So thinking of you guys a lot. And
thank you. Yes, absolutely. And it was discovered early, and that is probably one of the saving grace, and also the cutting edge surgery and radiation that they provided at the Mayo Clinic.
That is, thank goodness for all of that. I know you, and we'll get into, because you are and have been a medical reporter and anchor yourself, but back when you were at CAN OPTV, which you said was one of the smallest markets in the country, was that correct?
It was, yeah.
You also, prior to that, you published a story in 1974 that was on the wedding of the year in West Palm Beach, hoping there is a West Palm Beach after tonight, when Henry Ford's son married. Would you mind sharing a little bit about that?
Yeah, I was very honored to be there as an invited guest at the wedding, and then ended up writing a story about it. So I interviewed Ethel Ford about the wedding and Henry Ford as well, and things like that. So it was very exciting. I mean, it was national news at the time. The People magazine was there and stuff. And here's my little story that I got first published about it.
Well, I've seen articles, and you were a top news anchor, so I'm not surprised. Like I said, a trailblazer, always been a leader, and that's just incredible to have been a part of something like that. I can't even imagine. And then to switch gears from a celebration of a wedding, you reported on a mass murder case in the Midwest in 1979. Tell us about that story. In your interview, I understand, was with the actual killer, correct?
The homicide happened in 1974, before I was even there in Nebraska at the time. He had gone next door, and he gunned down all 6 members of his next door neighbors, including 3 young children, and sexually assaulted some of the girls and before killing them and stuff. He was originally found guilty of 6 counts of first-degree murder and sentenced to death in Nebraska.
Wow. And
then just before he was scheduled to as execution, he was granted a new trial because the sequestered jurors had been in with the sheriff. So at the second trial, it was moved across the state. That I covered the second trial. And at that trial, he was found not guilty by reason of insanity, and had been at the Lincoln Regional Center ever since 1979. And there was always that fear that he would get out
Mhm.
and do it again, you know. So
Did you
and
agree with that? Oh, sorry.
so then you know, I would cover his court case every year. They changed the law in Nebraska so that instead of the doctors at the Lincoln Regional Center deciding whether he was still dangerous and should be remain there, it was sent back to the courts, and in the courts every year they would come back for an annual review, and in the annual review they would say no, he's still dangerous and should not be released. And so during that time, in the like before the 90s, I think in 1990, I was granted an interview with him behind bars at the Lincoln Regional Center. And, you know, you would think he wouldn't hurt anyone, but I knew what he did to his family.
Mhm.
And he had always said that he was, never said really why he did it, you know, but I always thought the family in particular, they thought that he would be released and kill the rest of the family and stuff like that. The youngest victim was 5 years old, a little boy, kindergarten.
That
So,
had to be unnerving. Yeah.
and I do have a podcast and a documentary on that case in particular. So,
Oh, so if we Google it, will we be able to find it or?
well, we've been working on that, you know,
Oh,
off and
okay.
on. Yes, you know,
When you're
it's all ready. Yeah.
okay, when you're ready to share it, you let me know and I'll share it with my viewers. That's incredible. I have, in addition to broadcast journalism and communications, my passion which was secondary. My second degree was in sociology, and I focused on criminology. So crime and stories like this fascinate me. And what makes somebody snap like that? And do we agree with what they've done? You know, should he have been in jail? Is he getting the help he needs in where he is now in this medical facility? So,
And it seemed evident to me when I was there interviewing him and all of the doctors there that no one is there forever at this Lincoln Regional Center and things like that. So someone usually gets released and stuff like that.
wow, wow. And
So the
and
other
clear,
thing, that
yeah.
was one of, I covered the courts all the time in Nebraska and stuff. And I was, before I left Nebraska, then the judges and the attorneys recognized me with the 1992 Law Day Award for my coverage of courts, for helping understand the judicial system and things like that.
Congrats. You're just incredible. I'm so honored to know you. What brought you to Minnesota so that we could have you from 1992 on, I think?
It was, yeah, it was the job. I
Okay.
came to KSTP, the ABC affiliate, and started working there in 92. And soon after, I did breaking news, but I also did medical producing. I did a daily stories every single day in the 5 o'clock, the 6 o'clock, sometimes the 10 o'clock newscast. And then also if there were specials during um, more in-depth kind of stories and things like that.
That's incredible. And when I was digging through and looking through all the things you've done, I saw the Star Tribune doing reporting on you anchoring live surgeries on the internet. That's
You know,
incredible. Let's talk about that.
yeah, you know, when I got first started, I was in my 20s and now I'm in my 70s. So during that time, in 50 years, a lot has changed with media and all of that, and how we get our stories out and things like that. But I've always done maybe like 10,000 stories during my career, a whole variety of every possible story. And it's the stories with the people that I really love, that touch your heart and really make a difference. And really like doing all those. So one of the things I had the opportunity was to do these live broadcasts on the internet, and I did several of those. So we were doing them here from the Twin Cities, and they were broadcast around the world, and viewers around the world could either write in or call in questions in real time. So I would be outside of the OR. Sometimes I would have a co-anchor with me, another surgeon, and then the surgeon would be in the OR, And he would be talking about what they're doing. I would be asking questions. The procedures, the surgeries went from back surgery to kidney stones to knee surgery to aneurysms. I mean, it was a variety of stories. And I really saw the power of broadcasting. We thought most of the viewers would be professional doctors and things that were watching the show. We found it was just everyday people that wanted to learn more about this procedure or something like that. So after we had done one of these surgeries, I saw this man at the local hospital here, and he recognized me, and he recognized me for one of these live broadcasts we did. And he was from Florida, and he came to Minnesota to get his surgery here because we had this cutting edge surgery here. And that was the power of the television and the media.
That is incredible. And I'm not surprised knowing you. And then from there, is that when Inside Healthcare show started? From that?
It was, yeah. So I had the opportunity. A colleague of mine, I met her, and she knew about my reporting and doing the health and medical stories. And they had said they were interested in having this show on cable TV. So in January 2005, we started Inside Healthcare, and now this is my 19th year for doing the show. It runs on more than a dozen Twin City cable stations, and it's a variety of everything from doctors in hospitals to medical to scientists to everyday patients and people whose lives have been impacted for one reason or another.
That's incredible. And was that Jodi that you started with?
It was Jodi Skyvoss, yeah, talking about the opportunities that I've had, people giving me to have these leadership opportunities and things like that. So she learned about my background and stuff like that. So I've been doing it ever since. And then also, she also started publishing some magazines, and she asked me also that great opportunity to be a content coordinator. So this is my 6th year of doing magazine articles, features on people, everyday heroes and everyday who have done extraordinary things and things like that.
Well, and putting your good writing skills to use. And Jodi, congrats on your success of both Mendota Heights Living and Egan Neighbors magazines. And I know this show, your Inside Healthcare show, was on SCC TV with her as well, right?
Yes, it was. Yeah.
Yeah, and Around Town TV aired there as well when we were on MCN6 when we were doing more of the broadcast before these live streams. Yeah, so my paths had crossed with Jodi then, and then of course through the Upper Midwest Emmys, and I she's an inspiration as well, and so fun and funny and great personality, very very intelligent. So what a duo you two are, I bet, together.
And she really is just one of several leaders and managers and things that had given me opportunities I never dreamed I'd be able to have and things like that. And grateful for their leadership to help me get these opportunities to do these things I would like doing and stuff like that. Yeah. Especially when I first started, but even like the 70s, 80s, even the 90s, it was, and sometimes still maybe, a male dominant news business.
Absolutely.
When I walked in the newsrooms, I was one of a couple of women in the newsroom, and then even leaders were even worse. I mean, fewer leaders that were they were all men.
Yes. Yes, I do know. When I started as well, I was one of the first female, not anchors or reporters, but I also was on the sales side, which was all led by men, not only as the general sales managers, the local sales managers, the GMs. I was lucky enough to have a female GM at WCCO TV when I was there, but that was, and we've stayed in touch ever since. But one of the things I love about people like yourself and Jodi that you've mentioned, and not only have you been this trailblazer, but like I said offline before we started, you're kind in what can be a male dominated field, as well as very cutthroat. I'll never forget one of the first times I met both of you was at, it could have been the Student Production Awards or at one of the galas. And I'll never forget, I think it was the Student Production Awards. And I walked in and I saw both you and Jodi separately, and both of you were like, "Oh, you look wonderful." I mean, I wasn't used to women complimenting women, but in Minnesota, in our industry, we tend to have that, and especially in our organization of the Upper Midwest Emmys. I have found that the Mary LaHammers of the world, the Jodi Ritacca, Carlinis, the Judy, is it Skivas? Is that how you say her name?
Judy Skyboss.
Skyboss. They just are very not only overachievers and achievement oriented, but they're kind and supportive, very confident women.
Yeah, it really, just watching through the years and the decades and how things have evolved and changed, and the opportunities that weren't always available when I first started that are still today. And I tell young ladies especially, that they have opportunities that they find very odd. Like even before I went to college and before I started, I was looking for my very first job. And I thought, I'll go work at McDonald's. That looked like a fun place, right? So I went there, and he said, "Oh, we don't hire girls. They do not hire girls at McDonald's at that time."
Wow.
And fast forward a couple of years after college, I had a news director. I was applying for a job. And he said, "This was a very tough business. Why didn't I find myself a husband?"
Yes. Yep.
Yeah.
And my mother shared the same type of advice. My late mother, she said when she was getting ready to go to college, someone told her that you're pretty enough. You don't need to go to college.
Wow. Yes.
Which is, we'll get into your scholarship and the Berlin Family Scholarship too in a little bit, but it's you are one of my inspirations for that, but also trying to support both females and males in this, young students in this industry.
Absolutely. I've always had interns throughout my years at the TV stations and stuff, and share that with them and like see what they really like doing and maybe go into that area or very, whether it's reporting, anchoring, or behind the scenes and things like that. Yeah. So I've always tried to encourage that. And then, of course, as you mentioned briefly, we have the Carlini Media Scholarship, and we give that to students in the 5-state region here in the Upper Midwest chapter. And very proud we've been able to give 9 of these scholarships to date so far. And to watch these young people, the next generation, go on to their careers, it's so rewarding. And one of the first ones was very close to home. My dear nephew, Sean Lewis, he was in college at University of Wisconsin, and he got an internship here at KSTP for the summers during college, and then he went on, did internships at Milwaukee TV stations as well. He started at Fargo for his very first job, Madison, Rockford, and Richmond, Virginia, and then went to Chicago. He has been in Chicago now. He's a TV anchor, reporter, Emmy Award winning. He's such a good, gifted writer and reporter. And he has had his own show now for 15 years. It's called the Saturday Morning and Sunday Morning WGN TV show. He's the main anchor and things like that. And his reporting is some of the best in the country. And, one thing that comes to mind, during Highland Park shooting on 4th of July, he was there all day long bringing the news to viewers to stay safe and things like that. And just very proud of him. And most of his stories were heard in around the nation and things like that.
Well, and I had the pleasure and honor several years ago of co-hosting the Upper Midwest Emmy Student Foundation Production Awards with Sean, and he is an incredible co-host as well. Very talented and such a great guy.
Very proud of him. Yes.
Yeah, he's handsome too. Yeah, that doesn't hurt. Yeah, no, he's got it all. He's the total package, and it's such a kind man, and was fun and funny, and we just had a great time. I'd co-MC with him any day.
Yeah, I've just been so proud of him, and he always blames it on his Aunt Jodi for getting him started in this business, but I'm just so proud of him.
Well, good for you. You know, he's got the talent though. You can get someone into the industry, but if they're not willing to be that sponge and learn and also do those internships that we sometimes have to do. And I know you mentioned working with interns. One of the things that I learned to do and have done for many years is I'll volunteer at, it's now called 9 North, but it was CTV North Suburbs, because they would bring in the interns to co-MC their monthly show, and then it was a bi-weekly show. And I did that 6 to 7 times a year, even when it was across town, 45-minute drive and no traffic, just so I could learn from the interns, the newest, latest, greatest, what was going on. And you always learn from the younger generation.
You know, when I was in Nebraska too, one of my interns was, she was 4-H, and she was doing stories for the county fair and things like that. She is now today, she's news director at some other TV stations. I mean, it started with her doing 4-H stories. And
I love it. I love following the careers of those starting out and where they end up. One of the things that you interviewed Bob Hope in the late 1980s. Tell us about that. That had to be an incredible
interview. It was very exciting. You know, I've had the opportunity to meet all sorts of celebrities that I never dreamed I would meet in my life, including the Buzz Aldrin, the astronaut who, one of the people on the moon. I mean, walked on the moon. It was exciting to meet him in person. He was so down to earth, and here he's this astronaut and stuff. But Bob Hope, very exciting. So they was in the late 80s, 1988 or so. He had come to North Platte, Nebraska for the 50th anniversary. They were recognizing, it was called the North Platte Canteen. During World War II, the troops trains went across country, and they were taking soldiers and others to the East Coast, to the West Coast, going overseas during the wars and stuff. So these volunteers in that community, talking about volunteers, and they thought they would kind of greet the one train, and it turned out they thought it was someone that they knew, but it wasn't. But after that point, these volunteers, an army of volunteers, from like 5 in the morning until the last train that would go through there every year, every day, and they would greet there, and they would welcome these soldiers. Sometimes their pit stop wasn't that long there, and they would give them treats and things like that, or a birthday cake to wish them a happy birthday, even if it wasn't their birthday, and things like that. So that's why Bob Hope, he did a lot of this with the servicemen throughout his year, besides World War II. So he came to recognize and honor these volunteers who did this thing. They greeted like 6 million soldiers during that time, making their lives a little bit better during the war and stuff like that. So it was thrilling to meet Bob Hope, and his wife Doris was with him. And so they actually were at where the train station had been in the depot, and then they did a performance that night singing. She was singing, he was singing, and stuff like that. So just an honor to be able to meet him in person and talk to him. And I wish I would have been able to talk to him even longer to learn more about his career and stuff like that.
Yeah. Oh, what an incredible story and history he has as well. I met you when you were the volunteer as a president for the Upper Midwest Emmy regional chapter here for 6 years, and I was honored to work alongside you. But you contribute a lot to that organization and still do today. If you wouldn't mind sharing that part of your journey with our viewers.
You know, I've always tried to be committed to, in particular, the freedom of speech. And throughout my career, and all the thousands of stories I've done in my career, to treat them fairly and honestly. And so that's one of the things I liked about being involved with the Emmy organization, is about excellence in media and things like that. And started out as a board member, and then I was an awards chair, and then vice president and then president for the 6 years. And then I'm still involved with the future of it, with the organization, with the chapter council. There's 19 chapters across the country in the Emmy organization. So still actively involved in that as well. So I love volunteerism, like inspired by my grandfather too, Joe Ritacca. He was an Italian immigrant who, short years after he came to America, he volunteered, enlisted in World War One before he was even an American citizen. And he was on the front lines in France, willing to die for our country, for our freedoms. That was so proud, so important to him. And he instilled that in myself and all my family and stuff like that. So
another trailblazer. Wow. Did he become a citizen after that?
he did. After he was in the service, and then he went on to, we had a family business and very successful in the community. He was a volunteerism in the community and things like that. When he passed away, the newspaper editorial was about my grandfather and how they called him an exemplary citizen. Here he was, this poor Italian immigrant who went on to have the business, but was willing to die for our country.
Yeah.
You know,
Well,
that just always made me so proud of him. Yeah.
Well, and I'm sure he'd be very proud of you because you inherited those genes. You are an exemplary citizen. Your volunteerism in a variety. I know I've worked with you on a couple of the organizations, Woodbury Foundation, and this one, the Student Foundation, etc. And you're incredible. I don't know how you do it.
I thrive on it. I really do. You know, because I feel like I'm really making a difference in things. And one of the things I'm also still very proud to be involved with is with the women, the League of Women Voters. You know, and I'm involved with the local chapter, and I've have been doing this since the 80s. And I had the opportunity to be a panelist and moderator on some of these debates, from the U.S. Senate to the gubernatorial race, to the congressional races, to the local races, and have just done last month, did some more of these candidate forums. So informing the public, you know, who are people running for this office, you know, and things like that. And I love being able to do that with the voter registration and stuff.
That's incredible. And thank you. You had myself and a few other media gals at one of your events on a panel a few years ago on my birthday. And there's not many people I would go and do something with in the media world of, you know, from
on a Saturday, wasn't it?
Yeah,
even?
yeah, it was perfect. I had such a great time. So thank you for that. You have created a lot of opportunities for me, and your family has created, and you touched on this, of the scholarship that you give in honor of it's Ulysses, right? Carlini scholarship that's been provided in this 5-state region for the Upper Midwest Emmys for you've given 9 scholarships now. And that inspired us to give the Berlin Family Scholarship, but share a little bit about that.
Well,
And
thank you so much for your scholarships. And, you know, it can make such a difference for someone just starting out, you know, and especially colleges can be so expensive.
yes.
So Ulysses Carlini was, he was a pioneer in television. He was also a World War II decorated hero who received the Bronze Star and the Purple Heart for his bravery. And then after the war, then he got the GI Bill and started college. Again, he would never had the opportunity to go to college. He was the first one to get to college. So he went to DePaul University for his undergrad and Northwestern University for his master's and things like that. And then he taught also either at Northwestern or DePaul speech and things like that. And then he was doing some radio, and he learned of this new thing, television. And someone said, oh, you should try and get into this. So he was in 1953, was instrumental in starting like the first CBS station in Kentucky and things like that. So he was in from those early days. And during those early days, then he also did kids shows. He had different characters. He was Peppo the Clown. He was Fire Chief Andy. And they were live kids shows and they had the Three Stooges, the real Three Stooges, in their studio. He did it at different stations and different communities and things like that. And he had a great story. He said, so he was a fire chief, Andy. So he had a fire pole. So he would start off the show, and there's all the kids in the stands, it's live, giggling and laughing. So the guys in the crew thought they would grease up that fire pole. So he comes down, and all of a sudden he slammed on the studio. The kids are laughing. He's like stunned and trying. It was live TV, and he kept trying to go and things like that. So that was a great story. He was stuck. So he passed away 10 years ago, last month, and since he had passed away, then education with the GI Bill, it was so important to him that's when we started the Carlini Media Scholarship in honor of him every year that we've been able to do. I'm very proud to be able to do that. And then again, the 9 students that have received this in the 5 states, it's just amazing to see them to do well and things like that.
Well, and thank you for all 9 scholarships that you've given. I know that the students so appreciate them, and they get so excited, and they so admire you when they're sitting at your table like, wow, I'm with Jodi. And I know that that's they look up to you as a mentor, and of course as a trailblazer and leader in the industry as well. And well, and in addition to your family, you've talked about your nephew Sean and Ulysses Carlini, but your son Joe has paved his own path in this industry with 10 Emmy nominations and 2 Emmys of his own. And in fact, one of them, I believe, was on a documentary of Ulysses Carlini.
It was, yeah.
In him.
It was so exciting. Yeah, I'm so very proud of Joe. He, again, very talented. He's such a gifted filmmaker, from producing to directing to editing. I mean, he has such a variety of films. One of his first full-length feature film, last I knew, was still on Amazon Prime. He wrote it, directed it, produced it, and all of that. And now he's also doing a number of documentaries. But the one was about his grandpa. He always wanted to do that one. So he said, Mom, why don't you come with me and we'll interview him. And so we were able to sit down with him. And at first he was, no, you don't need to be doing anything on him. But his stories, talking about the early days of television and all of that, were so impressive and stuff. And that documentary he did receive a regional Emmy. So broadcasters around the country saw that. That was one of the best ones.
Oh, I agree. And congrats again, Joe, on that. Both of your Emmys and all your nominations, and just a story. I think that stuff needs to be documented, because when we started, or when I started, there was 3/4-inch deck tapes. Now everything's, and then it was 1/2-inch and SVH, instead of VHS, it was SVHS. And now it's all digital. It's just crazy to watch how times have evolved and changed. And I don't know if you feel that same way, but it's just.
Absolutely. When I was interning, and I guess even in college, when I think of it too, I was working with film, processing film and splicing that and editing that, and then I think they had the first video camera in the newsroom that I was at the NBC station in Denver and things like that. And, and to do live surgeries on the internet, just how far we have come in that short of time, that people around the world can see a story. And it's still always the heart of all the stories is the content, that is what it's all about, and the people.
Well, and the journalists like yourself and the anchors and reporters willing to go get that and report the facts. And that's not easy to go into a live surgery.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Maybe for you, but that would be a little bit.
I, as a reporter and a producer, I covering the health and medical beat. I was in surgeries, sometimes just a fly on the wall and stuff like that, but observing these surgeries and telling stories about them and things.
Well, one thing that's a little segue here out of the topic, a little off topic, but when you were talking about splicing and tapes, I was thinking of the big cameras, and you'll see me do this a little bit when I'm on here because this shoulder leans down from the camera. Those big cameras back in the day, I've it just from all of that, all those years of carrying that equipment and shooting,
You're
and
right. I did that all the time. Yeah, for decades. Yeah, just carrying that equipment and stuff. Yeah.
so you'll
And
catch me doing this.
the cameras got and the recorders and all of it got heavier, you know.
It did. Well, some of those cameras were as big as us back in the day.
Yeah.
If you think about it, I mean, they were just bigger, definitely bigger than the laptops and cameras and things that we have now, for sure.
I'm always grateful when I'm working with a photographer, skilled photographer, so they can do that and I can focus on the story and, you know, writing that. And
Agree, 300%. It's so nice when you don't have to be the one woman show. Um, so you've talked a lot about different parts of your family and the people that especially in our industry, but you have an incredible family. And when I were talking and I was looking through stuff, you had this just beautiful picture of your entire family. Let's talk about your family, if you don't mind.
well, from the Ritacca family
Yep.
or the
Well, your
Carlini
immediate
part of
family,
the family.
yeah,
Yeah.
all of them. That picture that I had found or that you sent, that was, you look like you're on a vacation. And so you have, your daughter as well and your grandchildren and
Yeah, very blessed, you know, with our son Joe and then our daughter Christina and our three beautiful grandchildren. We just adore their ages 10, 8, and 4 years old. And they are um, they just bright up our life. You know, they just are so wonderful to be with and stuff like that. And Christina, though, also she was in communications and things like that. She was an ambassador at the Mall of America. She was also, when she was living in Chicago, she was a Wrigley ambassador for the Cubs, Chicago Cubs and things like that. And it's always done communications and dance as well. She teaches dance still today, so very
I
proud of her.
wondered. Okay. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah,
No, she says that performing and she's beautiful. She is very beautiful.
and the grandkids are just wonderful. Like our 10-year-old grandson, he is brilliant. Yeah, I can brag about him and stuff.
Oh, yes, you
But
can.
he, but he has already created his first videos, his own videos. Yes,
How was 10?
yeah. Well, he actually did it like a year. Well, when he was like 8, 9. Yeah. So
Incredible.
I expect really big things from him. You know, like a scientist, you know, or an astronaut or something. He's just brilliant in that way. And, you know, and then he sells some of the volunteerism. So at his elementary school, he is a student ambassador, helping the community and people and stuff like that.
Oh, you have such an incredible family. And I've had the pleasure to meet, I think, everybody except for the grandchildren. And
And the two granddaughters are very talented dancers, especially when they've competed in national competitions and things like that.
oh, wow. And
And
how old are they?
they are 8 and 4.
Wow. So you've got,
They were just in Vegas, you know, this summer, and they did very well placing nationally compared to other dance competitions and stuff. And then also the 8-year-old, she's good at speech, like her mom. She's really good at public speaking and things like that.
so perhaps a news anchor or,
Well, yeah, and even the 4-year-old, she's always videotaping and going online, and she has like talking and doing tours and things like that. So she's already, the iPad is her friend, and she's constantly, you know, contact me to see what am I doing and things like that. And she
wow.
can record it and everything. I go, wow, I need to learn from her.
Well, I was thinking the same thing. Maybe I want to work in this industry as long as you are and have and continue to work. Maybe I'll be working for her one day.
You never know, do you?
Yeah, you don't know. And one can only hope and wish to be under talented people that are starting out that young and just have the gift and the desire and the passion and everything else with that.
Yeah, I always tell them how lucky they are, because through my travels and stuff, before I even started college and stuff, I was in Africa. I was in then Yugoslavia, Croatia, and all over the European countries and things like that. So I've seen other people in other worlds, and cultures and things like that.
That's so
How
important.
fortunate they are. I mean, like I was saying, some places they don't even have water. They don't have water, let alone have an iPhone, things
Yes.
like that.
Oh gosh, I haven't traveled as extensively as you have, but the few places I have, and you see that it's one of the first things I think of is how blessed we really are.
We really are, and from when I was talking like with the technology and just basic like water, I mean, you don't realize, that could be a life and death sort of thing, but just healthcare and stuff like that they don't have access to great healthcare, like my husband, with his diagnosis, that he was able to get treatment that has been successful for him, things like that.
It's critical to be at one of the best places in the world to get that treatment and to catch it early, because then you not only have the best survival rates, but you're also getting the best treatment and care.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so I was glad to hear that. What else can we share with the viewers on your extraordinary journey in television career that we haven't already covered?
I am just humbled and honored to be the first woman in the Upper Midwest chapter for the Gold Circle and our 25-year history of the chapter organization. So just so honored to be able to receive that.
Well, congratulations, Jodi. I will be there that night supporting you. You are such an inspiration. I admire you so much. I hope to be just like you, and when I just have a few years behind you, but I don't have 50 years. I have 37 years in the business, and my dream and goal is to be able to pivot continuously and be just like you. And I know many of us
What a
women.
great goal. And
Yeah.
absolutely.
Anything else or advice to women out there that are looking to be the trailblazer like you've been, the first woman to be the Gold Circle Award honored into that society?
I often talk to students and stuff like that, and I say, find it out what it is that you like to do, and you will never work another day in your life. Like you can succeed and prosperous and look for opportunities. You never know when the next opportunity could come across and stuff like that.
Great advice. That's so true. Well, and thank you for the opportunity to interview you this evening. We celebrate you. We congratulate you. We're so proud of you and that you're our Minnesotan. um,
Thank you.
you're
Really an
welcome.
honor to be on your show. So thank you.
Oh gosh, well, again, the honor is all mine, and for those of you who have been tuning in throughout the show, we used to go live just Tuesday evenings, and then we had so much content to share that we've been doing Tuesdays and Wednesdays, and even some Sundays and Thursdays. So this weekend on Sunday, I have the honor to sit down with the GAPS Project, which is an organization that's transforming the breast cancer journey for Black women. So that'll be a great interview on Sunday at 6 p.m. And then next Tuesday, I'm not sure about the guest yet. It hasn't been officially confirmed, but on Wednesday evening at 7 p.m. Central Daylight Time, I get to interview and sit down with and talk to Nicole Mittendorf, who's a well-known media and money a maven here in the Twin Cities. We're going to talk about her trademarked Live It list and goal setting and things like that. She's just an incredible, also another leader and pioneer, and in the top 1% of financial advisors in the country.
What great guests and topics and everything. Oh, very
Oh, I'm
exciting.
so blessed. I'm so blessed. And then we've got another great lineup, as you know, and it looks like Hurricane Milton has hit landfall. So when we get off, we can all go check on that. But I typically do go to Siesta Key, Florida at about the last 2 weeks of October into November, and will not be. That was canceled from Hurricane Helene. But so we'll have other guests back on as well. And again, Jodi, I just thank you so much for
I'm so glad you were here.
I know, me too.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, and I get to be there the night that you are honored. That is the blessing that came out of Hurricane Helene canceling my trip. I get to be there. So, and I look forward to it. Congratulations again. Thank you all for tuning in. My name is Carla Berlin, Minnesota's lifestyle and business experts. We have been featuring the best kept secrets, businesses, organizations, and people since 2003. And we are now the Twin Cities' longest airing television community showcase. And that could not happen without all of you. So I thank you. I'm keeping Florida in my thoughts and prayers. And we will see you hopefully again Sunday evening at 6 p.m. Central Daylight Time. Thank you again, Jodi. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
You are so welcome. Stay safe.